Hey, Ghost Machine fans, this one's for you.
Welcome to the Ghost Machine Fans Podcast, episode 106. The second official Ghost Machine Guidebook came out this week, and that means it's time we learned some new secrets about our friends in the world of the unnamed. Whether we're hanging out with the glowing man in post-apocalyptia or the immortal redcoat in times past, it's always a party. I'm Nick, and as usual, I'm joined by my better half, Snoggle. My dear, are you ready to guide us on this official journey?
Of course I'm ready. It's a good day to have a good day. And it's a really good day to be the guide, the Ghost Machine guide.
There you go. And speaking of Ghost Machine contributors, we have someone special we'd like to shout out on this episode of the show, and that is Norm Rapmund, veteran comic book inker who has contributed to some Ghost Machine books, was kind enough to collaborate with us and the Comic Bug, which is a retailer, and Xavier Fernandez, friend of the show, who does lots of fun reels out there, because Norm, believe it or not, Snoggle, was hanging out with the legendary Danny Mickey at the Comic Bug on Free Comic Book Day. And he's got some cool content on there of him doing some, looks like remarks and some signatures on several Geiger books. Very, very cool. And we appreciate, as always, the opportunity to collaborate with you and the Comic Bug.
Oh, that's cool.
But enough about what happened on Free Comic Book Day, because Snoggle has the Ghost Machine news.
So today is Wednesday, May 6th, which just so happens to be the release date for a lot of exciting Ghost Machine stuff. Today marks the release of the second Ghost Machine official guidebook, the one we will be going over today in the podcast. Also, the release of the Hornsby and Halo Volume 2 trade paperback and the first Redcoat Deluxe hardcover edition. We also wanted to remind everyone that the Unbelievables crossover is on the horizon, with the Rockefeller Zero coming out May 20th, Hornsby and Halo Zero coming out May 27th, and the $1 Trillion Kid coming out June 17th. As Rocky would say, amaze, amaze, amaze. These three books mark the kickoff for the crossover that will continue throughout the summer. So very, very exciting.
Huge. So two really cool collected editions came out today. One is another deluxe hardcover. If you haven't seen Brian Hitch's reel online of him opening up a shipment that includes that deluxe hardcover to get it in his hot little hands for the first time, you should go watch that. It looks really awesome. You put those next to all the other deluxe hardcovers Ghost Machines put out on the shelf, it'll blow your mind. And yes, The Unbelievables is just around the corner for some summer crossover action.
Very exciting stuff.
But The Unbelievables is the moniker that's replacing the Family Odysseys, right?
Uh-huh.
We're
the
not.
Unbelievables across the world, people with remarkable and sometimes inconceivable abilities. I like it.
It always makes me think of Princess Bride.
Yeah, I tried to do the voice, but.
And if you want to see some of the characters that are being created for this universe, I don't know if it's going to be part of the crossover, but you can go on to Francis Manipul's Instagram, and lately he's been posting a lot of stuff of his character sketches of the Dead Tones. If you recall, that was one of the names on the map of the U.S., and it sounds like a band of an undead band. And the sketches look a lot like an undead band or something like it. So really neat. I would go check that out. It's nice to see like the hints of that they put out. As a child, you would see like what maybe came out in a magazine or whatever. But if you really get into this in a community sense, like we do, you get to see really cool stuff like that other people might not know is out there.
That's very true.
But we're talking about the World of the Unnamed today because the first two issues of the official guidebook are both about the unnamed. And that makes sense because if you take all the four universes, the Unnamed, Rook, Exodus, Hyde Street, and its offshoots, and then the Unbelievables, the most content is by far, thus far, in the World of the Unnamed. So I can see why they would need two guidebooks.
Well, it feels like it began with the Unnamed.
As it did.
Yeah.
We're not going to be deep diving into this book because many of the articles y'all have already read with us as we've gone on this journey together. But there's a handful that are brand new. We're going to talk about those. But we should talk about the covers first because they are mind-blowing, and there are 3 of them.
Cover A is Gary Frank and Brad Anderson.
And on the front of it, it says Johnny Appleseed to Zigzag. J to Z.
Cool.
Yeah, I like that. And so this is a wraparound. All 3 of the covers for this issue are wraparounds. And this is Gary's, like you said. And it's a lot of characters from the World of the Unnamed. And I believe after reading this issue, even before reading this issue, I am fairly certain on this cover, I could name them all, even though one of them has not technically appeared. I thought it was neat because it's like, okay, well, we know the universe well enough to where we even can probably name the Skeleton Key guy because we saw him hinted at prior, Yeah. And so the A cover is Gary and Brad. The B cover is Brian Hitch and Brad. And that's all 3 of these are great, but my favorite is this one. I love how it says Deluxe Edition right on the front.
And that is the one that is got the apples in the front.
With the Skeleton Key guy like right in the middle.
Yeah, I do. I really like the B cover.
We see Widow X on the A cover. We see Widow X in the B cover. The commonality between her is we don't see her eyes underneath her hat. And we're going to get to that later. But there's one quick thing on the B cover, Ghost Machine fans. On the back side, the female character directly to the right of Sarah Nash's head, who has like a top knot hairdo and a star on her
cheek.
Yes. That is someone who I would not have been able to name prior to this, even though I had seen her in a panel. But that, according to this guidebook, is Milky Way.
I could have guessed that.
The reason I was going to guess that is because she's next to Bonnie Borden, the Karloff guy, and the Nero guy.
They're in cahoots.
It's just like, think about it. If you're new to this and you pick something like this up or unless heard people talk about this for that many minutes, wouldn't you be like, holy cow, what is this universe I've never heard of? Like, I got to figure this out.
Yeah, there's actually a lot going on.
So much. And
the Skeleton Key guy, just like, there's a lot going on.
I like the way that he drew the energy coming off of that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it looks cool. And I like how the St. Louis Strays are on the time tank. And they are in the C cover too. So what'd you have to say about the C cover with Johnny Appleseed on the barrel of the tank? That's an Yvonne or Hayes choice, if ever I saw one.
This Ghost Machine image label, I don't know what you would call it.
Oh, on the right, how it has the 4 universes?
Yeah, that's dope. That is dope. I love that.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's circular around the image logo. And up top is Radioactive for Geiger. On the right is a rocket, I would think, for Rockefellers. The bottom is Rook Exodus. So that's Family Odysseys, Unnamed, Rook, and the remainder is high. Oh, that's the X-ray. It's an X-ray glass or like one of the lenses.
I love that.
Yeah, that is cool. I like that a lot. I love that we know we can figure it out.
I am a fan of images or marketing that you don't need words for. It's one of those, if you know things.
It's very cool. And I like, it's kind of neat how each of them had a different format on the front, because this one actually shows like the list of all the stuff inside.
Yeah. I'm a fan.
Definitely pre-ordered all 3 of these bad boys. And just to point it out, Widow X is on there, but her hat pulled down once again. I think that we could recognize most of the folks, but we've learned a lot of new things, which makes this your spoiler pause for the Ghost Machine Official Guidebook Issue 2. How sweet was it for 2 people who have done over 100 episodes of a podcast together to turn the page and see the Munn family? Junkyard Joe was one of the first things we ever talked about.
I love it. It's not like I forgot about them. We just haven't seen them in a while.
And I don't believe that we got this before. So, real quick refresher. The Munn family was the family that Muddy Davis, when he was living alone after his wife passed away and he decided to retire from cartooning the Junkyard Joe comic strip, the Munn family moved in as his neighbor. And we did know that it was a single dad because his wife had passed away. They did mention that. And then his 3 children, we know that 2 of them were named Will and Grace, which to this day, we have to ask Jeff if that's like because I think it's a reference to like when they were born and when their parents were probably watching TV, but who knows? And, they were kind. They helped Joe. They helped Muddy. They fought off the custodian, all those types of things.
Yes.
That's been years though.
What length of time was Junkyard Joe with them after the books we read?
Exactly. And we've never, because all we saw was that ending, which I think when we did the math was in the 90s or something, or late, I'm not sure, but it wasn't anywhere near the Unknown War. And then how he ends up in the eastern United States in the possession of the custodian under President Griffin, what's in between there? And why does he lose his moral compass or become reprogrammed or whatever? And in this, I like how they mention, most of it is kind of a recap like I just gave, but I like how they mention that Sam's ability, the dad, is that he's really techie. And so he's actually been able to troubleshoot Joe. The reason I like that is it implies that there's more story to, always there's more story to tell, but that there will be more story told, because that, to me, Jeff doesn't put that in these types of bios, just like all the way back in JSA with David Goyer, unless there was like a reason. And that's why it just adds so much value to me, because it's not an in your face thing. It's not a preview page on the internet. It's not like it's not an interview with somebody that was going to promote a thing. It's a nugget in a paragraph in a guidebook about comics. And one other little one, I just didn't really remember this coming into play before. He mentions that Will, the son, the youngest son, is a really excellent driver. Like, he really likes driving games and like Gran Turismo or something like that. And so that made me think that there's going to be a scene. There's going to be a comic book where Sam has to fix something with Junkyard Joe and Will's got to get everybody there fast and he's got to drive.
Yeah.
So there are several more that we've seen before and love. I would recommend, if you have read these before, read them again, because you'll pick up new details every time. But the Organgrinder was a new fellow.
A new horrifying looking fellow. And what a name, Organgrinder. I mean, look at this blob of a man.
Yeah, I really liked that double entendre because of the organ, like the organ grinder operating an organ, like a musical one.
Versus
and like
meat grinder.
Yeah. I thought it was great. and I like it was just he's got flies floating around him. Like you can hear the flies buzzing with the way that Gary did it.
He is a horrifying thing. One part of his skin in the picture has a tattoo.
Yeah, on his arm.
Yeah, like a fish or something.
That's funny. I bet it's not his tattoo. It's
I
probably-
know, but like his knees,
Yeah, his knees are horrible. His
his
knees,
toenails. Look at those toenails. I mean, I guess there's got to be nail clippers in the apocalypse.
well, we'll find out in a few when we talk about the warlords and what roles they play. Which warlord would get you your nail clippers? It's interesting. It says his first appearance is in Radioactive Revolution #1, and that comes out in 2026. So I don't know what that's about. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. It's what it says on the page.
Something that I don't feel has been discussed
I don't think so either.
at all. What a wonderful thing to get a guidebook and see that and say, wait, #1, this dude?
I know.
I'm going to assume in Radioactive Revolution #1, maybe we'll figure out a little bit more about this Minister Madness.
Yes, because he's mentioned with the glowing man. It says, more than another wasteman myth spoken of in the same breath as the glowing man, Minister Madness, or the many horrors rumored to roam America. So we've never heard of Minister Madness before.
No.
We don't know what that is. So that's another little Johnsian nugget for you. And we learn a little bit about the world, which is then brought back when we get to the Karloff part in the end. But he's helping the Organ people get like organized, and he's really like precise. He's not just like a shambling husk of like limbs. It says under Organgrinders, one word, proper noun, leadership. However, they're
proper noun, Organgrinder.
It's his name. So this is referring to the Organ people and what he's doing with them, right? It says their brutal practices have evolved into something far more dangerous, a coordinated harvesting operation capable of sustaining entire groups of followers and the man who commands them. For now, the organs continue to work. For now, Organgrinder lives.
Yeah, that's just a big note for me.
It says, under Organgrinder's direction, a grim network now stretches across the poisoned territories of the Midwest. So, like, there's a huge network of people that are into this. And it's like, man, that takes a decent amount of organization. If you guys maybe, like, put down the cleavers and maybe got some, medicine and food, you might not have to do this anymore.
What I find funny is it's obvious that while he has attention to detail, apparently looking beautiful is not anything that matters to the detail in this man's mind. But that doesn't surprise me because it appears he only has one eye.
Yeah, that's true. At least
you think
for
that's
now.
An original eye?
Oh, no, definitely not.
Horrifying nonetheless. And it looks like he's coming for Geiger. But, like, I cannot, well, maybe he's a formidable villain, But I'm pretty sure Geiger is going to take him and those claws of toenails out.
Yeah, but I bet it'll look really cool in the Radioactive Revolution.
I really liked the rundown of Safari Bob. And I will say, we're going to get into it, but when we were introduced to him in Geiger Volume 1, I just truly kind of felt like he's not all bad. I might be a bad guy, but I'm not a bad guy.
Well, back in, I think, the 80-page giant, we get a few page story that is the limited amount of information that his origin is another guy named Safari Bob. Safari Bill. Yeah. There was Safari Bill, and Safari Bill thought that he was training this guy Bob to be one of his soldiers. And then he found out he was training him to be hunted by humans. And so instead, he killed the people hunting him. Then he went to Safari Bill, killed Bill, took Bill's took Bill's empire and outlawed the hunting of animals and made it so that the people who wanted to do the hunting in the safaris had to hunt criminals or bad people instead of innocents. So all these things are like good guy things. And his function in the world of the Las Vegas warlords is like bounty hunting and things of that nature. But it's I've always wondered about that, right? Like his decision to take over, and like he didn't just kill the bad guy, he killed the bad guy and he took his mantle. Because then it's like, that's interesting. He's going to use the power essentially for good. But did you notice how in the write-up it says Safari Bob admires the animals of the High Plains Zoo? That's
cool. I
cool.
really like that. So that means that he's aware, when we read that book, he's active in the know. When all those animals were, Zigzag and everything, they were liberated.
Right. Well, he says that he admires them because the guys that went there hunting for them did not do so with his permission, because he outlaws the hunting of animals.
Mm-hmm.
Which is pretty neat.
Yeah, I like it.
They also mention that he occasionally hires or works with a group of mercenaries called the Wastelanders, who are then also referenced later. But I was thinking that we would have seen like a group of that type of people on one of the covers, but we didn't. We haven't seen. I'm sure the Wastelanders one day will have their own bio for that matter.
Yeah. Well, you can't reveal everything.
No, right?
Give us snippets, but not. It's we talked about movie trailers recently, and how they essentially dang near give you everything. So it's nice when you get a little bit that I'm intrigued, but don't, as much as it pains me, don't give me everything.
But you can give me all the skeleton key you want, because this one's kind of funny.
Yeah, agreed.
So this is another new one that we hadn't seen before. I think we just saw the guy on the top of a hill in a panel when Redcoat was reminiscing. And
his name is Solomon,
Benjamin Franklin's great grandson. And it's because he inherited the key that Benjamin Franklin tied to a kite that then became some sort of powerful artifact, or maybe it already was a powerful artifact.
Or maybe Ben Franklin was right that electricity has supernatural properties.
Yes. And that's also what's talked about here, is that was a big thing. And, that made me think, it's like, do we really know that it doesn't?
Well, we are essentially electricity makes us as humans continue to go. So I feel like it's pretty important.
So it's understandable to say that perhaps it could revive somebody, which is the premise of what this super electrical key thing that the guy has is. But it says more. There's a lot. It tells you that he attacked the city of Philadelphia, essentially. And in the process, he was stopped by Simon Pure, Albert Einstein, Annie Oakley, and Nellie Two Bears Gates, who we saw in a panel somewhere. But that's it. And we don't know much more about her yet. And it seemed like something happened to him, right? They don't know if he was destroyed or.
All right, I'm about to make a lot of assumptions, because I think that we will probably at some point hear about this lightning riot in a Redcoat book, right?
We will. I'm sure we'll see this story.
And you said it happened in Philadelphia?
Yep.
And obviously we know some of the founding fathers were ex-nayed by John Adams, correct?
Yeah, I don't remember the date on that.
But I'm just saying, I bet the skeleton key, some of the properties, is bringing the dead back to life.
I think you're right, because that's alluded to a bit here.
So I bet he was trying to bring back his good old grandfather Benjamin Franklin. Calling it now. Or someone. Who knows?
Yeah.
An army of the undead.
to
One
fight
can
his
only
battle.
hope.
Well,
Yeah.
and it does say some historians claim Skeleton Key, referring to him in that name, died that night in Philadelphia. Others insist the lightning simply changed him into something else. To me, that means the lightning changed him into something else, and we'll see it.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm cool with that. And so that's a super fun. And I like how it's like, oh, yeah, and by the way, we're just going to toss other character names in here for those of you who are paying attention. And if you're not, you'll see it come up in a comic later and then refer back to this one day and be like, holy cow, I can't believe they mentioned it that early.
Yeah, I think that's cool.
So as longtime Mad Ghost / Ghost Machine fans, the Western Warlords 2-page spread was pretty great.
Absolutely agreed.
It does a good job of reminding you of these characters that you probably met, most of them, for the first time in the Geiger 80-page giant, the historic book that it has now become. And it elaborates on why they formed and what part of the country they encompass. Because originally it was more like you saw this really cool version of Vegas that was contained by all these like airproof tunnels so people could get around.
I feel like right now where we are in the story, Geiger's Midwest. So like
Detroit. He made it to Detroit. Yeah, he made it to Detroit. So he's
middle of the country.
He's in Michigan right now.
Good old Midwest.
Yes. It explains how after the Unknown War in the Western United States, they rebuilt this system of rulers that essentially came from Las Vegas themed casinos, but then each of them has like an actual functioning purpose in their post-apocalyptic ecosystem or economy or both. Then it does point out that together they maintain a fragile balance of power, holding President Griffin and his Eastern United States at bay. Though their influence stretches across the Western states, their center of power, their Washington, is Las Vegas. And so, we've seen the other White House before in like a different part. It wasn't in DC, and that's where Griffin was. And then we know he's in the Eastern United States. We know this is the West. I don't know that, they may just be parts of the country that are unclaimed, like the Midwest, because if Geiger went through Missouri, eventually to Detroit, that means he went through Illinois and then Indiana and then to Michigan. Probably.
Well, that middle area, if you've got East versus West going on, right? The middle area is kind of a gray zone.
Yeah. Well, we certainly don't know of anyone ruling it. But we don't know how far Griffin's deal stretches either. And or like how much his authority is respected or known, right? We don't know a ton about that. But this does give us a lot of information about it's not just crazy themed future chaos, which is kind of what I thought before. I loved it, but I thought it was more like these warlords survived and most of the other people were just like peons and like it was just the nature of a post-war thing. But this explains that each of these warlords has a function. The Queen of the Camelot, who it is confirmed that she was the wife of a U.S. senator when her son had been killed and then the second king had been killed. She's for order, law, and unity. Bonnie Borden, who is one of our favorites. We've said she's been our favorite before in some really cool scenes. She runs the Manhattan Club, the 1920s themed one. Very different from the Camelot nightly thing. And she's vice, currency, and distillation. Distillation is what is emphasized in the alcohol sense. It says she has stills all over the countryside.
Well, one thing I like about Bonnie here, because what we all remember from 90-page Giant is the Queen is a horrible individual. And at the end of Bonnie's, it says, Bonnie sees the Queen as someone who still believes power comes from a throne instead of the people. So whether it's nefarious, Bonnie's for the people and the Queen is more like, I'm in charge because I should be. To unify the people, even if it's under her weird, evil, ways.
And Goldbeard is for transportation, trade, and reach. And we learned a little bit more about him more recently than the others because of the Geiger story in the prison. And so we know at heart, he's, at least to me, he's like a super good dude. But it makes sense that makes things move. You know what I mean? Transportation and logistics is very important in this world. Safari Bob is bounties, retrieval, and enforcement. That makes sense because people got to be afraid. People got to follow the rules. The Wastelanders are once again mentioned in that one. But Milky Way. So this is big. If you recall, like we did get a very short origin story about Milky Way because we knew that it was the Shooting Star Casino in Geiger 80-page giant, but we've never really had that elaborated on. And if you notice in this little tableau of the table where each of them has a number next to them telling you who they are, Milky Way's not at that table.
Yeah.
And she is in charge of salvage, tech, and mobility. And so she makes factories that hum with energy, light, and music. Her crew is working under her like she's part of something bigger than survival. She is as much presence as she is power, vibrant, magnetic, impossible to ignore. But she's not with the group. And supposedly she has a fascination with Tariq Geiger that people know about. But I mean, we've only seen her like in this little circle and in that origin story. Like it's an interesting, I want to learn more about that character. I like that. Number 6 is Karloff. Do you remember when we started this thing now over 2 years ago that when we read the 80-page giant, we were like, oh, I bet that guy's friends with the Organ people.
Yes. His operations supply the cannibalistic Organ people. Horrifying.
And in the Midwest, the mysterious Organgrinder has begun to rise, disrupting Karloff's networks and pulling the Organ people toward a new leader.
And how dare they? How dare the Organgrinder really not appreciate all of the crazy misery that Karloff gave them? Really just gonna slap in the face, take away his evil empire of cutting people up and stealing their body parts.
Of all the people to be at odds, like that's just funny to me. Like, hey, somebody's moving in on Karloff's organs source. Like you'd think it would be the lady that makes the booze all over the country that would have the competition, or the guy who's like in charge of all the transportation of stuff, who's like a pirate, not not that guy.
Yeah,
it's funny to me.
And then we finish it off with Nero, who is like the queen's yin to a yang. They're very much like hate each other, but they need each other to exist. He sucks. I hated that dude in 80-page giant.
Yeah.
That
was a sad story.
Yeah, very sad. It says where she imposes order through law, Nero rewrites it through narrative. So sometimes he mocks her, but she knows like if she gets rid of him, she doesn't have her propaganda machine, and the people love him. It's just, that dude sucks.
Yes, he does.
Do not like him.
And even at this table, he's got one of his people feeding him grapes. It's like, man, the theme does not need to persist. The thing that ties them all together is that the system they built is delicate. It's a balance of dependence, which means that Tariq Geiger, who's not a part of it, is a threat to them all. And last but not least, we have Widow X. And it says right there, she appears fully for the first time in Geiger 25. 23 is
Agent Sylvia Sleepy Hollow.
Yep. And look at what color her eyes are.
Violet.
So that explains why she, covers them a lot. we do get a little bit of information about her, but this is cool because most of it's like blackened out so you can't read it, like someone is hiding it. We do know she existed during the political turmoil of the 1960s. There was something she refused to accept, that something changed, and then she had some unique advantages. And then she discovered the truth of her assignment. And then what she discovered revealed something bad that, in my opinion, led to her having some sort of varying state of being where she's not always in her natural state of existence, because it says in her natural state, Sylvia Hollow exists blacked out.
I love that, by the way. A redacted file.
A redacted file.
I think the reason we can't see her eyes is because there's some sort of ability there.
Yes, the violet eyes. And it does say at one point the gloves appear to function, ... And that's like, we know the gloves are significant because the gloves are in the time tank. And something closer to a shadow. So her natural state and her being able to shift her state and whatever her assignment was, and she discovered something, and then that changed how she. It's my theory. That's all I got, and I think that's what they're going for there.
Well, we know she's a gifted linguist and cryptographic analyst. She can translate languages, break complex codes. I just love Widow X is as formidable with. We won't know.
it's got to be it's got to be two things, right? It's got to be like Widow X is as formidable with a gun as she is with the shadows. She reminds me of the Shadow. Maybe she knows, and that's how she deciphers codes.
Or maybe Widow X is as formidable with her mind as she is with her powers.
Ooh, that's probably more like
what it is. She obviously has superpowers, but it looks like she is super smart too, which isn't that a superpower as well? And banging outfit here.
Yep. I wonder if her necklace is anything, that purple gem.
I hope so.
Really cool character.
It probably holds something.
And in the logo on the timeline for her, when it says in 1997 is when Widow X has her revenge. So I think her revenge is for being sent on that assignment, getting turned into a superpowered being, and then she has her revenge.
I'd just like to state that directly when Widow X has her revenge is at the height of the Spice Girls popularity. And literally a year after that, the Spice Girls were just done.
No way, really?
Yeah, I promise you, I am a Zennial, and I can tell you very much that 1997 was the year of just Spice Girl mania. And Widow X came in and was like, nay, I cannot have this.
Apparently. Makes sense. But it could be.
How wild would it be if that is really what happens? No.
Or maybe she was having her revenge against the American people, and she made the Spice Girls successful, and we had to endure the Spice Girls.
What do you mean endure?
Well, I don't think that this listener who sent us a fantastic mail is a Spice Girl, because the name would not indicate as such. But who knows? So would you like to read it?
Oh, Maxim Eminem?
It's kind of hard to say, isn't it?
It's
Maxim Eminem.
Here's our fantastic mail. Hey, Ghost Machine fans, with a little wink face.
Winky!
But not an emoji. I appreciate it. A while back, someone asked what guest artists you'd like to see in the universes of Ghost Machine. If you could insert one writer into the mix, who would it be, and what universe would they contribute to?
There are novelists that occasionally do comics, and you read a lot of novels. So why don't I answer this? And while I'm answering this, why don't you think of a novelist that you think would be good and tell us why?
Okay.
So my first answer And this is not the nature of this question, but it's just to remind everybody of something that Maytal Zahoot and Leila Lees said to us recently. I think it would be great to see them. I know it's a writer question, but I think it would be great to see them do the Rook Exodus, do some Rook Exodus. And I know that probably sounds kind of like off the wall, but we have heard that there's going to be more coming from the world of Rook Exodus outside of what Jason is doing. And by that, I don't mean we heard something special. I mean, like, that's the things that we've heard said, and that's what's been said on the show. But we don't know anything about like what that means or who would be doing that, or even if it is somebody different. But Maytal and Layla, we do know they are continuing to do Ghost Machine stuff in a universe that's not the Hyde Street universe. So I would really like to see. I'm excited for that, whatever it is. But I think it would be neat to see them do that. So I'm a big fan of the film High Fidelity, and that's why if you know that film, you know that you shouldn't pick one. You got to have a top 5. And so I'm going to do like a top 5 unranked, but all these would be good Ghost Machine writers, not in any particular order. Joshua Dicehart, Matt Kent, Mike Mignola, Jerry Duggan, Grant Morrison. And those are all my choices, Ghost Machine fans. So how about you, Snoggle? What'd you think of?
Okay, so if we're just talking writer, I've got a couple. So one of my favorite historical fiction authors is Kate Quinn. She does a fantastic job of telling a story, but also really, really integrating actual history into it. So I think it would be really cool for her to potentially do a red coat with Brian, her and Brian Hitch could, have a little conflab. She does very good relationship building as well within that type of universe. So you're immersed very, very much in this historical era, but she does a great job of weaving in fantastic fictional stories with it. So Kate Quinn, if you haven't read any of her books, I'd highly recommend The Rose Code. Amazing. And she could definitely hang out in the Red Coat era. Now, another one I'm going to bring up, and you haven't read the book, but you just watched the movie, Nick Wilson.
Oh, yeah.
Is Andy Weir.
That's what I thought you were going to say.
Andy Weir, well, you said, we're high fidelity, this situation. So I got to have more than one. Andy Weir, I absolutely love Project Hail Mary as a novel. Nick got to see me give it to most of the people in our family for Christmas. It was like each person opened it up. Okay, Becky, we get it.
Yeah.
You want us to read this book. I too really like his research that he does to try to make the science behind his novels more accurate. So he really cares about that. And he does stories about, it's usually like a lone wolf and they're saving themselves and or all of humanity. So I could see him somehow really digging being in the unknown, like Geiger universe, but without knowing what Widow X is really about or First Ghost. I could see him there too. And then, so Lev Grossman, he did the Magician series. I would very much equate it to like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, but scary and not. It's just like the opposite land of C.S. Lewis. But he also did his own telling of King Arthur in The Bright Sword. Good call.
And if you would like to send us an awesome, fantastic mail like Maximum did, then you can do that by emailing ghostmachinefans@gmail.com. And if you'd like to check out all of our other content, you can visit www.ghostmachinefans.com, where you'll find our social media platforms, our wiki, and if you'd like to join the conversation on Discord, the invite is on our profile on Instagram and on the announcements on Reddit.
And thanks so much for joining us tonight on the Ghost Machine Fans Podcast.
Organgrinder Podcast.
Nah, Widow X.